Remix. 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 Remix.
Oh, yeah! Welcome out, y'all. This is no other than the Remix Morning Show. Right here on Black Liberation Media, in case you didn't know. Hey, I go by the name of the Ear Doctor. Let me introduce you to the host with the most. Here we go. Burn it down, Kim Brown. LJ. Erica Kane. Yep.
Yes.
What up? Look at that smile.
To you.
I love it. See, that's the energy you got to bring in the morning time. Cheerios, everyone.
Well,
Nigga, one is a greeting, and the other's a breakfast cereal. So which one are we doing?
Honeycombs.
Which one are we doing, Ear Doctor?
Fruity Pebbles.
Cheerios. Okay.
That's how we started off. What's your favorite cereal, y'all? How y'all doing anyway? We'll get to that. Y'all good?
Yeah.
I'm good.
Yeah, not bad.
All right, tell me about your life. Let's start with you, Kim. How was your weekend?
Nigga, it's Wednesday. What is you talking about? How's my weekend? It's Wednesday. What weekend?
How was your week since last Wednesday?
Monday and Tuesday has been glorious. It's been spectacular. I have absolutely zero complaints.
Okay. All right. El Jose.
Yeah, this past weekend was the Unitarian Universalist General Assembly. So there were over like 2,000 folks gathering to talk about our bylaws and our values and everything. So that was a little bit, it was great, but it was also a lot because people were debating Palestine, they were debating trans lives, and it was a lot to deal with for a weekend.
A weekend?
Well, it's generally Thursday through Sunday, all day. It was one of the shortest ones, so yeah.
And what did you get from it?
I love process. I love being a part of the process. Things like covenant are really important. That's religious speak, but in organizing spaces, that might be principles of unity. And those things are really, really important.
Yes.
And I like being a part of making those happen. That's
Wow.
Look at that. All right. Erica Kizanes. What's good?
I had Family Day this weekend, which is like a smaller version of our family reunions, which we don't do as much because my mother is one of 14. So alone, I have 50 plus first cousins.
First cousins. Wow.
Yeah.
Right. You don't fuck with them Canes. That ain't in your last name, but I'm just
What are you
saying.
talking about?
Well, my dad is one of 8.
Whole
I have a
block
big
coming out.
side, but typically in African households, we lean towards the mother side a little bit. So, that's where we were this weekend, and I had took some members with me from BAP up to Philly, and they got to see the Recknesses and it's where I come from, essentially, why I am the way I am. And why I'm so loud.
Philly?
What part of Philly is your people from?
No, they're not. Well, they're all over the East Coast. So, like when they left Trinidad, they came straight to the Bronx and then dispersed from there over the years. So I have family in Philly, West Oak Lane, and then Roosevelt and Northeast, over there by the zoo as well, so downtown. So they're spread out all over Philly, and then my cousin just moved to North Philly. But yeah, family in the Bronx, family in Brooklyn, family in Queens, family in Jersey.
North Philly.
The migrants don't play, boy. Y'all be spreading like butter on toast. Shit. But yeah, man, that's dope. I'm glad you
Yeah,
had a good one.
Ogon's Ave. Yep. I
You
used
said
to live
what?
over there too. Oh, so I seen it in the chat. Ogon's Ave Cruise. Yep, that's what
Oh,
I
okay.
What's
used to live
that?
over there by the hoagie factory.
Oh, I don't know about no hoagies. I don't know about
I
no hoagies. No real hoagies.
That's how I used to live. My grandmother lived
Yo,
block,
yeah.
like
Used
up
to
the
go to
alley from the
Italian
hoagie factory.
to the corner stores. Then you go to Wawa.
Yeah,
Wawa has some good hoagies. Oh my god.
not no more though.
Not no more? Okay. I ain't
No.
ate a hoagie since actually at Publix they make some pretty good hoagies with the fake meat and stuff like that.
I still call them heroes.
Really?
So yeah,
Hmm.
it is what
Never
it is.
did. Big up to South Philly and all them people.
Ugh.
You know, oh, ouch. All right.
Easy.
Leah Bai's gonna come for you for that neck. You know, she don't play about a Philly connect. Hey, best cereal. What's your favorite cereal?
I don't eat cereal. I'm not a cereal gal.
Okay. Kim looks like one.
I used to demolish cereal by the box,
I
right?
bet.
Like
I know.
demolish it. Cause anyway,
Munchies.
but it spans the spectrum. We can go from Raisin Bran, which I later discovered is loaded with sugar.
Ugh,
you
crazy.
thinking you eating something healthy?
Yeah.
That's a negative. Nope, that all kinds of sugar in the Raisin Bran. But if we're going for overt sugar, it used to be Lucky Charms as a kid, but now I think about trying to eat a bowl of Lucky Charms. I'm like, this is instant diabetes. Like, what
Soggy,
is this?
nasty marshmallows.
Right.
Ugh, my God. Pork
People
in the
like
Sorry.
cereal.
those marshmallows. You didn't
Mm.
think
What?
like the marshmallows didn't taste good though.
Just terrible. Terrible.
I know in America we don't like nice things, right? Like we
Not wrong there. No.
don't like nice things. And it's funny, like, the West Indian folks, be talking about porridge. I'm like, porridge? What's the
Yeah.
porridge? You mean oatmeal? What's
Yeah,
porridge?
No,
It's
no.
not oatmeal.
Porridge is
Yeah,
porridge.
put us
No,
on.
it's not.
What's
Porridge
porridge?
is porridge. Just like you wouldn't call grits oatmeal.
Ah,
It's probably closer to grits than it is oatmeal.
What is it? Is it
Yeah.
oats? Is it rice? I don't know what porridge is made out of.
I don't know. It's porridge. That's the name of the
Girl,
grain. I suppose.
listen,
I don't know.
see,
It comes in a
we
box.
ignorant. We ignorant. We trying to get some knowledge here. We don't know what porridge
I don't
is.
know. Well, I'll ask my mother. She's not
Yes.
a porridge eater. We eat bacon saltfish. We eat like yuca or yam. That's what we eat. And green banana. I don't
Yum.
eat porridge.
Man, I don't know if y'all ever had bacon saltfish, but it's one of the greatest delectable meals ever. I'm just saying. Oh my God. Oh man. So what about you, LJ? All
I
right.
am a cereal person. Yeah. I usually stick to the 1920s, white supremacy Kellogg, corn flakes, bran flakes.
Bran flake. Oh,
Yeah,
man.
bran flakes. That's what I do. I
Mm.
can't do the real sugary ones. I can't. I'll just pass away. So
Oh my God.
stick to
Yeah.
those.
I'm a Trix
Or oatmeal. I love
Cheerio.
oatmeal.
Oh, oatmeal. Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
Trix
As in
Trix
tricks
are
for kids. Yeah,
Tricks are
doctor.
kids.
Yeah, I
Those are
was.
some of the greats.
They
And
make yogurt.
honeycomb and
Mm.
and honey nut Cheerios.
But all
Those are
them
my
joints,
top
like
three.
the tricks and like the Captain Crunch, them joints would tear up the roof of your
Oh
mouth.
my
Yes.
God.
It's like,
Yeah, they
Crunch
would.
berries.
Oh,
Yeah.
Mhm.
those are the worst. Ugh, I couldn't stand.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
I'm
but
sure there's a capitalistic explanation as to why cereal is a staple of the U.S. diet, right? Especially,
Oh
there was
yeah.
some capitalistic marketing that said, "Hey, well, same thing for cow's milk,
Well,
right?"
they just
Like,
did that though.
hmm
They just had that recently. There were
on Netflix.
articles suggesting that we eat cereal instead of dinner. Go back to that. So that is because because the cost of food is rising. So there has been recently those kind of articles suggesting. I think they were in the Wall Street Journal and stuff like suggesting that folks eat cereal. And there was like
Imagine
a
that.
Frosted Flakes commercial, I believe, specifically about that, like replacing dinner with Frosted Flakes. So
Imagine that. American doctors telling us what to eat and what to
I don't
put
know
in our
about
was
body.
it American Doctors or was it Kellogg's?
Was it Kellogg's?
right.
Hey, you're right. Hey, big up to PJ5. Porridge is a food made by heating and boiling ground crushed or chopped starchy plants, typically grain, in milk or water. It's often cooked or served with added flavorings such as sugar, honey, fruit, syrup to make sweet cereal. Sound like they went to the
Ooh,
dictionary.
delicious.
Nice.
Well, some people just be knowing it, doctor.
Okay.
He don't
Yeah,
believe
doctor.
it. He
With
don't ever believe
flavoring such as sugar, honey, fruit, or syrup. You can't tell that's not.
You don't
Come
think
on.
people
Maybe
talk like
people
that?
just talk like that. Yeah.
Nah, they don't.
You don't
They
think people
don't.
say flavoring every
God,
day?
y'all don't.
You
Y'all
don't
don't.
think that's
Y'all
something
don't really study. Y'all don't study language in certain things like I do.
Oh,
Oh, do
okay.
you? You study
All
Oh
right.
language
yeah.
and certain things.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I could read people like a comic.
Can you now?
Yeah.
Like a
I didn't
comic,
read
I
what you
think is
observant.
an accurate
Yeah,
description.
because it's
Yeah.
not a lot of words in comics, but I can read them. Anyway. Anyway, let's talk about something that's coming up this Saturday for all y'all who don't know what's going on. We got no other than
Uh-oh.
LJ in the building. She's not coming though, is she? You're not
No.
gonna make it.
Mm-mm.
I
With
don't
that
think
horrible picture, I can't
also,
come out there. No.
because I have a question about this picture. Did you just
Imagine
screenshot
that.
it?
You got a question, huh?
I do. Did you just screenshot it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. She
You
don't.
didn't
She
just,
don't.
why didn't you just ask? Hey,
Why
I need a
didn't I?
picture. You could have
Okay,
just
let's
asked
see what
all
he
of us,
says to you, Ricky.
honestly.
Let's see
You
what
could
he
have
says
asked
to
all of
you,
us.
Erica. Mm.
You know what? Because I was watching the show yesterday, as I always do, and I was listening in, and Air Doctor was saying that he's a doer, right?
I'm a
And the thing
doer.
about Air Doctor's doing is that he doesn't really check in. he'll say, hey, he'll give you the one flyer, and then next thing it's online. So I don't know if we are supposed to give opinions or not.
Nah, you're not. You're
Yeah,
not.
so okay.
See,
All right.
I take away stress and worry from y'all lives. You know, if I
Oh,
had to go to
oh,
y'all every time I did something and then deal with voting systems and this, that, and the third,
oh,
it'd take forever.
oh,
So,
okay.
so you
Yeah,
know,
well,
I just make it
make
happen, and then I just wait for y'all to complain,
So Ear
and it
Doctor,
works.
Whoa!
Ear Doctor has said he's not a fan.
publicly. He's going
He's
to
not a fan
bypass
of the
Oprah.
democracy. He's not a fan of this one person one vote system. He doesn't dig it. Like Ear Doctor is
And you
more of an autocrat, like he or authoritarian. You know what I'm saying?
Making notes.
He's the decider. He's giving us giant George W. Bush energy out here. I'm the
Damn.
decider. You know what
I
I'm
mean, a
saying?
little bit.
Wow.
It's
Come
strong
on,
arm
not
the
George
process.
Bush energy.
Thank you both. Thank you
You
both for
strong
that.
arm the process a bit.
You know?
I mean, does everything have to have a process? I mean,
Well, I mean, the very least, you
See,
could
yeah,
have said, "Hey, look, LJ, I need a picture."
so you know what I think it is. Y'all come from the organizing worlds, and I come from the make it happen world.
You're here now, though. You're
The
here now,
organizer
though.
doesn't make it happen. Okay. Also noting.
Ear Doctor street way, ski
I
mask
mean,
way with the
ransom notes. Far from, well, I ain't far from handsome.
You have
but
my
damn, a
number.
nigga
You
told
can
me.
just quickly
What you
send me a
told?
text. Like,
All right, so next time, even though y'all all know that we've been doing this show for a while, not to send a headshot that y'all might want me to use. That's cool. I just, I'll make sure that I ask y'all next time.
Prerequisites.
You don't like your headshot, Ricky? Erica? Yes,
I mean,
you
either
do.
or is fine.
I mean, when y'all posted on different social medias, I'd be like, hey, they must have liked it. They
you can
posted
just
it.
take the note, Ear Doctor, and be
That's
like,
it.
hey,
I mean,
I got it
either
for
that
next
or
time.
just-
Okay, you're right, LJ. I'm working on being a better human. To listen and just take it
I
in
don't
sometimes.
know if that was
You-
the ask.
You don't know if that I just
I don't
said
know
it.
if the ask was like be a better human, but like
That's not what I said at all. But okay.
It's a
I mean,
general.
I'm working. We all working, aren't we? Y'all think y'all perfect already?
Oh, come
Ear
on
Doctor,
now.
shut up. Wait, can we get back to the event? Hold on,
All
everybody.
right. Yes,
The
thank
event
you.
is
Pause.
happening this Saturday.
God.
It's
See
the
how we
Remix-
can't get this stuff because. Go ahead.
It's the Remix Morning Show. Like, hey, Doctor, can
Welcome.
we queue up? Can we get an instrumental? Can we get the Wu-Tang reunited? You know what I'm saying? Can we get that real quick playing under this joint? You know what I'm saying, y'all? It's been a stretch, okay? it's
Tell
been
'em.
a stretch. We getting it the hard way out here. We knocking heads. We daps and hugs. It's all of that. You know what I'm saying? But now the time has come. We reunited. The Remix Morning Show live in your area, Washington, D.C. Saturday, June 29th, 1 p.m., 1301 Connecticut Avenue. The ear doctor's going to be in the building.
Yep.
Erica Kane's going to be in the building. Kim Brown going to be in the building. Kamau Franklin will be in the building. Reverend Dr. Jared Ball is scheduled to be in the building. Who else? Who else is supposed to be there? Everybody. Jacqueline Lukman is also scheduled.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? Now we're not gonna do y'all like Wu-Tang used to do us back in '98. You know what I'm saying? Where it would be unclear if all the members of the Wu-Tang would show up for a live show. No, we're not gonna do y'all like that. We're gonna do like Wu-Tang in '93 when all of them niggas showed up.
Yeah, we're gonna come like Voltron, you know what I mean? So come on through. I heard BAP gonna be heavy up in there. Bunch of people.
Wonderful.
So Nefertari, what's it? Netfa. Yeah. So he got us the space. So big up to Nefta. Big up to that brother. You know what I'm saying?
It's free, everybody. This is a free event, which I am puzzled by. But anyway, it's free. I mean, I think we should at least accept donations or something, but whatever. It's all the way free. So 1301 Connecticut Avenue Northwest. If you're taking the metro, it's going to be right off that DuPont Circle Red Line stop. And I suggest people get there early. Space is going to be limited. And what else can we expect?
And afterwards, you know, there's a bunch of bars I heard around there, so we might just powwow for a minute at one of the little bars around there, and then for the exclusive, we're gonna have a little after party. So that's what it is. You get picked, you might be able to come out and party with us.
Studio 54.
Exactly.
Your doctor's walking through the line and you started to join. You, her.
Not you.
Exactly.
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
Okay.
Yes.
Hey, you know.
Wow.
This is how it is sometimes, man.
But no, we expect to see all of our DC area remix morning show all-stars. I'm talking to y'all remixes. Y'all, Leah, Boggs. Who else is local in this joint? Well, Erica's on screen. Who else is local out here? DC, y'all better show up. DC Joe Black, what's up? I'm saying, I'm trying. Hey.
It's free. You know what I'm saying? So, and then those that can't come and want to see it later, it's going to be on Patreon that following week. So,
oh wow, okay. See, that was a question my mother had asked because my mother wants to come. She's unable to come. She has another event. But she asked, was it going to be broadcast? And I lied and said yes. So apparently, I have lied. It's not going to be broadcast live, your doctor?
On Patreon, yeah. Y'all Patreon members, right? Y'all.
My mother is not a Patreon member.
Well, you are. You can let her hold your link.
I also am not a Patreon.
Oh, well.
To
now
be
it comes
fair,
out.
To be fair, y'all are not patrons of my shit either. So it's get back. It's the same
Wait,
energy.
no, I am a patron of
Look at that.
Lucretia is because I love you. I know Lucretia is a patron, but I'm
didn't
talking
know
about that nigga ear doctor. I
didn't know you had Patreon. That's big up.
Oh, really?
You know what I'm saying? Big up to Kim. Kim been putting out mad content, y'all. Just keep up with us. She been putting out mad content. Every time I pick up my phone, it's another show with Kim. So big up.
Hey, that's Molly. Shout out to Molly. Molly is one of our radical whites working on the back end. Molly cuts up all the shorts and everything like that. So that nigga, if it was up to me, wouldn't nothing get posted.
Big
nothing.
up to Molly.
Yeah, big up to Molly out here.
All right, we talked enough. Y'all ready to get into some news and stuff like that?
Get it cracking.
All right, well, we're going to take a quick break and we're going to get right back to it right here on the Remix Morning Show. Let's go.
Ooh. Remix.
All right. What's good, everybody? Welcome out to the Remix Morning Show. I go by the name of the Ear Doctor. Thank you all for tuning in. Yes. Hit that like button and subscribe if you're new to the channel. Go to patreon.com where you can see some footage over there that's rare over here. And share like you care. Share this to your friends. Like if you go into a dope party and then you like, yo, this party was dope. Here's the party. Tell them about it. Put it on your social media and be like, yo, y'all got to check out the Remix Morning Show. All right, with that said, let's get to it. I'm talking about an artist spotlight. Who I want to talk about? Well, first of all, I got to get my background right. Let's take it to the halls of music. All right, so here we go. Let's talk about a brother straight out of Georgia. You could tell by that hair right there, boy. He's killing the game. Let's talk about Hamilton Bohannan. All right, you want a little piece of it? That's right. Y'all know that track right there. That's called Let's Start the Dance. If you don't, you better ask somebody, baby. Well, coming straight out of, well, first, let me tell you about him. He's actually a drummer, percussionist, band leader, songwriter, arranger, record producer. One of the leading people back in the 70s on that funk and disco music. He worked with Marvin Gaye, Stevie Wonder, Temptations, Ray Parker Jr., all types of people. Coming straight out of Noonan, Georgia. Big up Noonan. He started playing drums at school when he was young, and he wound up dealing with local bands, which one of the people that was the guitarist in his local bands is, get this, Jimi Hendrix. Wow. He graduated from Clark Atlanta, big up CAU. And after that, he was a school teacher for a minute. And then he got recruited to drum for who? At age 13, Stevie Wonder's touring band. So he did that, and then he moved to Detroit, and he wound up being an arranger, and Bohannan and the Motown sound was backing Marvin Gaye, Stevie Wonder, Temptations, Diana Ross, the Supremes, Four Tops, all of those dope bands coming out of Motown. You know what I'm saying? So after Motown moved to Los Angeles from Detroit, he stayed back and started working with Ray Parker Jr. and some other cats, and he started putting out some music. He put out his first album, and, you know, he was trying to get in his flow. One of his first singles that hit was called South African Man. But then he signed to Mercury Records and put out Let's Start the Dance. And this one right here blew the charts up. You know what I'm saying? So this put him on the map big time. A lot of different people sampled his music and stuff like that. He wound up getting into more of being a devout Christian. So he started making some music for the Lord. And he actually had he passed on in 2020, April 24th, at home in Atlanta at age 78. Now, this dude got like 20 albums, so go check him out. Big up to Hamilton Bohannan. All right, let's get back to the Remix Morning Crew. Now we do.
Come on and do it. Come on and do it. Come on and do it.
Do it. Yeah. Y'all learn anything?
He one of the funk
I
brothers,
did.
Doctor?
Huh?
Is that basically what you were telling me? I mean, telling us that he was a backup drummer. He was a session drummer, studio
Yeah,
drummer.
he was a session drummer.
But was he one of the funk brothers or no?
Nah. He was he was one of the drummers, Bohannan in the Motown sound. So he basically was there at Motown, backing up all the different great artists that came out of Motown as the house band.
Got it. I feel like there's another single that there must be, because I'm not all that familiar with this artist.
Let's Start the Dance. Yeah, I mean, like I said, he did a lot of stuff in the background. His biggest other single was South African Man. You
But I
probably
feel
don't
like
know
I've
that.
heard Bohannan, the name, before.
And Foot Stomping Music, 2 other songs.
Okay.
Disco Stomp. Yeah.
Got it.
But, what did you learn, Ricky? You said you learned something.
Yeah, well, I learned who that was. I had no idea
There it is.
who
Bam.
the man was. Well, my mother, that's her era. So there's a lot of Donna Summers in this house, and there's a lot of disco. But I've never heard that song or heard of him. So I learned a lot.
I gotta get up there and have a disco party with your mama. She sounds like she cool.
I do every Friday.
A word?
Oh,
I'll be there Friday.
Screaming at Alexa to play your next song.
I love it.
I'll be there Friday. Let's go.
Yeah, me too.
All right, you're not coming. All right.
Good reason though. I know no one faults LJ for not making that long
get it.
trip down the road
Like 7 hours, man.
for
Takes
2
me.
hours. For 2 hours to kick it.
Mhm.
We got the whole weekend. We got a spot for the weekend.
I
She got
work on
this stuff.
Sunday, you know.
Yeah, you can miss it.
You couldn't come down here and guest church somewhere, girl.
No.
We'll pull you out the pit. All right.
Oh,
I'll
man.
catch y'all later.
Okay.
All right.
Lucretia, when you go out of town, you don't be going to guest church. You don't be guest churching it up.
Well, since I'm in the beginning of the process, I have to be careful like which commitments that I take. So I'm not really allowed to be like considered someone else's minister yet. I can do like
Oh,
guest preaching spots.
I didn't mean go spit a verse. I'm just talking about show
Oh,
up and show up as a visitor. I'm sorry. Can all of our visitors please stay? That's the most embarrassing thing on earth.
it
Like,
is the most embarrassing thing. Yeah.
I'm not
Everybody who's
saying
new. No.
shit.
Mm-mm.
Right.
Come down to the front is the worst. Yeah.
Ooh, Jesus. Why does Black church like to make a spectacle of you out here? It's like
Mhm.
be
I think
doing
they
Well,
want it to
because
be welcoming, but I don't
yeah.
know.
Well, also black people like spectacle.
That's
So
true. That's true.
touche. Well, speaking of spectacle, everybody, let's go ahead and get this morning show started with some fly news, you jive turkeys. Welcome, everybody. It's the Remix Morning Show on Black Liberation Media. Disregard the acronym. You got to say it, call it by its entire government name, Black Liberation Media. Here we are. It's Women's Wednesdays. My name is Kim Brown. We have LJ in the building. We have Erica Canes, also known as Ricky Ryan, in the building. We have the remixers in the building. Thank you guys so much for showing up and being here. Engage with the show. Give us a thumbs up, a like, a follow. I was gonna say consider a channel membership, but we about a good month away from resuming those. But you can always head over to patreon.com. Oh shit, ear doctor, did our Patreon, is our Patreon changed or the same?
It's the same. Who looks horrible?
oh, sorry. My mother's in the back.
Roasting someone. I hope it ain't me. But anyway, patreon.com/Black Power Media. You know, that is we are the artists formerly known as Black Power Media, but you can go on over to Patreon and run us some bucks there. For everyone that has done so, apparently you all have done so in record fashion. So thank you all so much for continuing to support this platform, this channel, its mission, its movement, of which you all, the remixers, are definitely a part of. So we got some stories to get into. We know Erica is always well prepared, so she shall lead this lesson to start off. Where do you want to begin?
Yeah, some fascinating news about Chuck D.
Whoa.
I was minding my business per usual, and MSNBC plays.
We are always minding our business, and yet somehow
That's what I do. And MSNBC was playing in the background, and I looked up because I heard Chuck D speaking, but I didn't know the context, and he was accepting this position as one of the latest U.S. global music ambassadors. So today, Secretary of State Anthony Blinken and YouTube global head of music Leora Cohen, who is an infamous Zionist, announced an inaugural roster of U.S. global music ambassadors as part of the U.S. Department of State YouTube Global Music Diplomacy Partnership. These global music ambassadors will, on behalf of the American people, use the music to bring people together and promote peace worldwide. The department and YouTube will announce additional U.S. global music ambassadors in the months ahead. So if you go down, you can see the very first person is Chuck D. This is Chuck D. Chuck D is a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and Grammy Lifetime Achievement winner. He's the co-founder of Public Enemy and Prophets of Rage. He's recognized worldwide as a legend, activist, fine artist, and best-selling author. So that is where we are fighting the power. So the more interesting point, because if you go down, there's a bunch of other people, but a lot of them are African artists. Some are more or less obscure, but have won a Grammy for writing or something else. But they're not just as well known. But Chuck D's name being the first and being the most prominent is obviously intentional, because the other music global music ambassadors are not as famous. But also, they were angling this news in a very particular way that I found very intriguing, because they made sure to have those other black artists who we may not know. They got to speak on a panel, but what they wanted to do specifically, or what they were doing, because it was Andrea Mitchell, who, by the way, is still ticking. She's still going. Andrea Mitchell was was facilitating this panel, and the discussion was how this aligns with a history of Black artists who have done this. So they were sure to name Duke Ellington and Louis Armstrong, but if read Black Scare, Red Scare, or follow Sharice's work, Sharice Burton-Selly, or have heard her in conversation primarily in with Black Wits podcast and Dr. Ball, Jared Howard even, right? They do talk about, and also in Black, the Myth and Biopower, Dr. Ball's book, he does talk about that, the use of artists. Was it the Myth of Black Power, or was it the first one? It might have been the first book. I mix what I like, because he does talk about the use of Black artists and how they were used globally to kind of subdue those sort of anti-colonial struggles that were happening. Because it's like, oh, well, people are witnessing Black people get beaten in the head, right? Because that's following all over the media, so that's being seen. But then they're sending these artists around as if to say, well, no, we got it good. Look at us. We're fine. But then other than that, I know Langston Hughes has done that before. And so has Paul Marshall, who is one of my favorite authors. She accompanied Langston Hughes, and he talks about it in his autobiography. She talks about it in her memoir as well, that time period and the sort of limitations that they had, because I think at that time they were thinking it was one way, or that they could do more that they were doing, and you could not. So the idea that they were still trying to, I guess, encapsulate Black people into this space, like given all that's going on right now, the idea that they're sending Black artists who right now, if you on the left, quote unquote, are also seeing themselves as these sort of figures to promote a sort of narrative that is their role. I just found that very interesting, that it's playing out in these sort of kind of bipolar ways. There's a dichotomy happening, but ultimately there's a thing happening with artists where they are given a slight more importance, or they do serve a particular role. And we can see that with Kendrick or Kalani, right, on the other end of the spectrum. But then on this end, you're seeing the use of a Chuck D.
So it's interesting that Chuck was selected, because Chuck is 60. Okay, so like Chuck ain't the hot rapper out here. No disrespect at all. Obviously, we know Chuck D, legend, Public Enemy, etc. But this is a very Gen X selection, right? This ain't gonna get the youths to the polls, So anyway, but even in the context of what you're talking about, Ricky, like I'm thinking, you mentioned like Langston Hughes and Louis Armstrong and other artists, and I was thinking also as a counter to them at the time were the likes of James Baldwin and Nina Simone and Muhammad Ali and Harry Belafonte, these very outspoken, very pro-Black, but leading leaders that contrasted, I guess, what the mainstream co-optation of Black artists are. So so if Chuck is, I don't know who's to, like, I don't know who our Harry Belafonte is. I don't know who our Nina Simone is, right? Like, it's definitely not Chuck D. It's definitely not Kalani or Kendrick Lamar, right? Like, I don't know who the 21st century version of these Black artists are. But it's another kind of disappointment from Gen X. Woo, Generation X letting us down. Look at Gen X. We're going out sad. Here comes Chuck D standing next to Leor Cohen and goddamn Anthony Blinken on behalf of the United States. So much for Fight the Power, so much for Black Steel and the Hour of Chaos, so much for It Takes a Nation of Millions to hold us back. And here you are standing next to the Secretary of State as the U.S. ambassador for global music. At 60, though, I think that's intentional, because again, who's young, hot, and radical out here? Nobody.
Right. And then to your point, even mentioning Fight the Power, I'm thinking about globally the impact that Fight the Power has. So the use of him as a global, because they make sure to say he's a legend. If you run down that bio, right, there's nobody. I would say that song, at least, even if Public Enemy wasn't known individually, they know the song. Because Fight the Power has reverberated as an anthem in a lot of struggles, right? So that I do think it's like an intentional model there. But even to your point of naming those artists, those were at particular times. Like the Louis Armstrong and the Duke Ellington was happening at a time where artists or writers were, red,
Listed.
and they were
Yeah.
traveling to the Soviet Union
Mhm.
and all of that. So they had those sort of corners at that time. And then what you're speaking of, I think primarily is like the Black arts movement. And Musa and I talk about that all the time. Like that doesn't exist in that way right now because the Black arts movement, because the way that artists see themselves now, or even the retelling of the Black arts movement, puts them at the forefront of a thing, right? And not
Hmm.
the backbone of a thing. And I don't think that people understood the impact that culture has. Like when Amilcar Cabral talks about culture and the necessity for it, it's why I always talk about ethics, like because that is part of our culture. If we don't understand ethically what we're doing as a people, then what culture is coming from that, right? So there is an importance there, but that's why I would say it's like a backbone because it kept the movement going because they were reporting the movement as it was going on. But like when we were in Cuba, and Musa talks about this all the time, like when a cultural worker talked to other artists and other cultural workers in Cuba, and they were asking like, what is the role in revolution? He's like, well, when it's a revolution, you put your paintbrush down and you pick up the gun, right? And so that is not the understanding, right? What I see as a Kendrick or a Kalani or how we view people on the left as artists today is that this is the work, just my art. That's it. I don't have to participate fully. I don't have to really, because even to the credit, right? They make the music or they may do a call out, but they don't name names and they're not fully backing the resistance, right? There's a soft, they have to have a soft landing regardless.
Tongue
So
in
there's a
cheek.
different kind of investment. Like when we look at Nina Simone and what has happened to her life and what has been sacrificed and lost, it's a different investment in speaking the truth. And they speak to up until a certain point, right? And I don't know, there's always this, well, at least they do something kind of model. And I think that's a model for not just artists, but like anyone in general. Like, well, at least they're doing something. But like, to what extent? Like, what is it something that we're doing? Like, what are we doing it for? And what are we trying to reach? So ultimately, that's why I'm always pushing back on, not because I don't like art. Like, I listen to all kind of stuff that I probably should listen to. Problematically, right? Politically. So that's not my issue. But when you step into a lane, like when you make a fight the power,
Hmm.
what is your responsibility then?
I love your point that you made a couple shows ago when you were like thankfully laying out that I don't remember who said it. You'll probably remember Erica. Um, the idea that an artist is supposed to come from or their work is to reflect the people that give them authority of their community, and not just to give lip service to what's going on politically, but
Mm,
also to kind of like interpret what the community um, needs from them as artists. And so this soft power that it's really fascinating. Like I remember Ice-T talking to was it who? Tucker Carlson, and then KRS-One rapping about Mayor Adams. I was like, and he actually gave him a new rap on the spot. He was like, "Oh, let me do something new for you." Oh, that was really painful to watch. So, and a lot of these people, I think, bring in a lot of people who maybe aren't thinking politically all the time necessarily, and then they hear from Ice-T or KRS-One to support Mayor Adams, and it's like, no. So I don't know. I just wonder what you think about the artist's ability to sort of shape the narrative away from what we would like.
yeah. Well, I'm always questioning that. Like, ultimately, it's a question of influence. Like, how much influence does it have? Like, I get the propaganda, but as individual artists, how much influence do they have where the people can't be reached to an extent, right? Like when people talk about like we have to address certain things that people say, and I'm always like, well, do we have to address what they say? Or is there a way to have that conversation without highlighting these people or what they're saying, right? Because ultimately what they're saying, if we're acknowledging that other people are saying this, the people that we know are saying this, then I don't know if it makes sense or if it's useful to highlight, oh, because this person said it. Like, if it's already a thing that's happening, then how do we reach, or how do we tackle that thing without highlighting or censoring? Because I don't think that there's any other way to have those conversations around celebrity where it does not censor celebrity in that way. Even in the issue of Chuck D, right? This is more than a Chuck D situation, but it's really about the utility of artists in this moment. So even like, that's why I saw it fit to speak about the dichotomy, because there's plenty of ways people are having this Kendrick conversation, right? There's a plethora of ways that people are having this Kendrick conversation, but there is a dichotomy happening between the use of artists that is not being produced out of community. It's not coming from us, right? We're not manufacturing, or we're not creating the art and sending it out to the masses. So this is what's, these are artists that are having to be, they're coming from community, but they're manufactured through an industry. And so that message, whether it's fight the power, or whether it's they're not like us, or whatever, whatever he's saying, it's coming out of that. So that mechanism has to really be understood to where the limitations are. So, and then to what extent does it go? Because who's to say that in 30 years, Kendrick won't end up doing this for the State Department? How do we know? Because
5
what
years.
if, right? Well,
Next year.
I mean, low key, he's kind of doing it now in his little stuff with Africa, but like, but that's the point. We don't, because there's no accountability to the actual liberation, right? Or the movement towards it. Like, there's not, and these people moving as individuals, and there's an individual responsibility that they take on. And then even the idea that to criticize them about the Amazon relationship, right? Well, okay, so maybe everybody on that stage is not Kendrick, or does not have Kendrick, but the idea that these artists are then taking their money and then investing in community is not that realistic, because they're all moving individually, because it's a system and an industry that promotes individualism. So they can speak, that same lip service to and around what's happening, because how could you not? And then if you don't say anything, right, there's a backlash to not say anything. So there is a sort of obligation that people feel to say something, but to what extent is that connected to anything beyond I did my part?
What is the responsibility that we as consumers of the art have, at least in the way that we are receiving this art? For example, like, I don't know what fight the power means now, if it meant anything, right? I mean, there were so many people slightly older than us who were radicalized in some way by Public Enemy's music in the 80s. So to see Chuck now, I guess, transition into a point of his life where he's concerned about legacy. KRS-One, same way. These Bammers want streets named after him and stuff. You got to rub elbows with the politicians and the power brokers to do that, but these are the same people that are harming your community. So when you hear a song like Fight the Power and contextualize it, I guess, versus, what Chuck is doing now, or a Beyonce Break My Soul, right? When Beyonce herself is a blood-sucking capitalist who had, kids in Cambodia stitching House of Darion shit for 7 cents an hour. You know what I'm saying? It's like, well, we can't take these artists at face value, at least when it comes to we're talking about musicians, when it comes to the art that they present, because it's just performative. It doesn't mean anything. So I guess we can like it for our individual taste, but don't think that Beyonce is out here championing on behalf of workers' rights, or that Chuck D is out here really advocating turning over the system because there he is.
Right.
So what's our responsibility as consumers? We just got to look at it like a movie. Like, oh, look, Beyonce made a cute, workers' rights little movie. That's cute. You know what I'm saying? Like, but she ain't about it, right? So we don't look to Beyonce for leadership,
right?
Labor. Go ahead, Erica.
Well, I think ultimately we don't control any of it, right? So without that, I think it's all fundamentally a question of political power. We do not control that industry. We do not control the messaging. We do not control the product that comes out of that industry. Like, we can see these artists as coming from us. These are our artists, certainly, right? They're African artists, but we have no control over that, right? Because at the end of the day, everybody has a bottom line. Like, Beyonce has said nothing about Break My Soul becoming the anthem for Zionists, right? In Israel. Like, so, nothing. But we can also look at, or we're supposed to look at Beyonce as breaking groundbreaking and breaking barriers for Black people because they released a country music album, right? So there's a legacy there that people are attempting to hold on to, and then there's the people. And I think ultimately, without the political power of the people, then we can't control what happens with these artists because they move as individuals, right? They don't have any need or any necessity to be accountable to us.
So
Because
what? That's what I'm saying. So what are our responsibilities as consumers, or do we just not have any because we don't have options. We don't have real options in terms of who gets elevated, who gets platform, who gets the marketing push, who
yeah,
gets.
well, and they about to be fighting right outside that door. Hold on.
Hey, and real quick, as soon as one of these artists do some political stuff and they not said how we want them to say it, then we could quick to jump down their throat like, yo, why is you talking? You
Give us
supposed
an
to just be doing
example.
music.
Give us an example, Air Doctor. What do you mean?
Right.
So just say like Killer Mike. Let's say for instance he tries to do some political talk and then he says something we don't like how he said it. Why is he speaking? Why is
Well,
he
I
talk?
don't.
Why don't he get somebody political to speak up for him? Because as soon as they do try to speak up and say something, then we like, oh, they not saying it right. They not doing it right. So
Yeah.
then the artist is like, well, let me just probably be quiet because as soon as I do say something and it ain't said how y'all wanted to say it, y'all gonna be on my ass.
Yeah. Well, I think that's not the actual criticism of Killer Mike, right? I think the criticism is the same as what I was speaking to, right? There's a perception and a persona of the artist, right? Especially as a grassroots artist and the political music that he makes. And then there's what's actually occurring that is a detriment to the people that he is rapping to and about in his music. So that is the underlying, like that is the foundation of which your criticism comes from. Because it's not like you're not saying it right, but it's like what you're saying is contradictory to what you are actually attempting to produce in your music and your artistry. So the contradiction is what's the criticism, not what's being said. And then also people don't, so everybody don't just say everything. I don't recall, I'm not of that crowd that says, hey, such and such needs to speak, or let's hear from this person. I don't even think that should happen within an organization. Everybody in the org don't need to be coming to the mic. So every artist doesn't need to be saying everything, especially if you're not engaged in a particular political struggle. Because what exactly are you saying? And then what you say can be ripped apart, stripped apart, misused, misconstrued, and then becomes a detriment to anything that we're trying to produce. So then, yeah, we should be a little like, who's saying what and what are they saying? You should be, because this is not about an individual, but if somebody is speaking on behalf of a people, then what is being said concerns the people.
Mm-hmm. And in the ways specifically to Killer Mike that he has engaged, not even so much that he is engaged, but I guess allowed himself to be used, standing next to Bernie Sanders, standing next to Keisha Lance Bottoms, standing next to the chief of police when folks in Atlanta was in the streets doing an uprising, he out there trying to calm the streets on behalf of the cops. It's like, no, sir, that's not that. We would prefer that you not allow yourself to be used in that way to sort of give cool cover to the mayor of Atlanta or to the police chief or even to a presidential candidate. Like, no, I think it's fair to criticize artists that put themselves out there in that way very much.
Also, in the chat, it said your responsibility is not to consume it. And I don't disagree, but I also want to kind of stay away from like an individual responsibility, right? Because we can also say the same thing about like chocolate or our iPhones, right? We shouldn't be doing any of that, but we live within a society. It's there, right? So how do we tackle that? And that's why I'm speaking primarily about like political power, because if we look at it as a collective thing that we need to, so then the process or the train of thought that becomes like, so what needs to be done, that we can start to chip away at how much influence these people have. But if that's not where we're starting from like, this is what we can do as individuals. Individually, we're not going to move the needle.
I second that. I just want you to say that again. But yeah. I think a lot of organizations get lost in personal purity and asking folks to do certain things only based on individual actions or judging them based off of that. So I appreciate that point. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. Yep, but you can just add Chuck as another Gen X disappointment. I so hate to see it. I mean, it's like Chuck and Flav is doing their own different versions of selling out, right? Like, like Favorite Flav is a big Swifty.
I mean, that's selling out. It's a generational because what's it? Lil Baby be with Stacey Abrams, and
Oh,
the next one, Lil Durk be in Chicago. So it's like they all, they put on their suit and they do they. I think who was it? Quavo was just with Kamala Harris to talk
yeah.
about gun rights. So it's a generational bullshit.
It's because I mean, again, I'm of an age. I remember when rap was the enemy. Rap was truly counterculture, right? And so now that
Mm.
rap has been fully mainstreamed, these are the ways in which we see the mainstreaming of our genre that once, I suppose, once stood outside of that mainstream. And I mean, do you think Bill Clinton would have shared a stage with a fucking rapper not named MC Hammer? Ain't no way. Ain't no way. So this is sad. This is very unfortunate.
So these artists getting used by these politicians, pretty much. I mean,
pretty much.
I mean, they know who got the platforms, so they go to them and be like, "Yo, I can introduce you to my audience, and you can introduce me to your audience." That's how it's been working. But
Who
oh
was
my
the
goodness,
first? Who was the first rapper to stand next to a political candidate?
Easy E went to the White House.
Hey, you right about that.
I
I don't
mean,
remember Easy telling niggas to go vote for Bush though. I
he
mean,
was
maybe
there. He was there with Reagan, I believe. Was it Reagan?
Nah, it could have been Reagan.
it had to be
It had to
Bush.
be Bush or
Had to be
Clinton.
Bush.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
Bush
Yeah.
won.
Yeah.
Which
He
one?
was up in that bitch with Jerry curls dripping and everything. So listen. Easy. We want
Pick
easy.
up your phone.
Yeah. So I guess we can go ahead and get ready to take another break. I think we got some guests coming. Is that right, Erica?
Possibly.
Possibly. Okay.
It's,
Possibly.
it's
And we
West
got
Coast time, so we'll see.
Yeah, it's early there.
okay. It seemed like when y'all was talking earlier, it seemed like the last time we had a collaborative effort with musicians might have been the Solitarians.
Soul
That was
Aquarian.
a good era,
Aquarians.
though. That
Soul
was a really
Aquarian.
good era.
Yeah, I think that was the last time. Before that, it had to be the Native Tongues or something like that, as in a group of artists that came with some good music, positive music.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Other than that, they ain't had it since. So,
Mm.
that's like fight the what self destruction song. Shit
No,
happened back in the
politically, they all
'80s. Huh?
And
politically
again,
now. That whole Soulquarian group is a little.
oh right. There's that part. But like a fight the power, not fight the power. Like to your
Self
point, your
destruction.
doctor, self-destruction. We're all in the same gang.
Hmm.
You know, I don't know. I mean, not to say that those records were, moving the needle on violence in the community, but at least was an artistic stand, I
Yeah,
suppose.
it's political.
Yeah.
Do you think it speaks to Jared's point about the manufacturing of these things, though? Because
Of
if
what?
this is the end result, then like of hip hop, like we've
Mm.
never had control. It's never been this thing. Because if
Mm.
this is the ultimate end result, where we're talking about Gen X, right, and then also we're seeing what's happening with the younger generation, um, I don't know. I'm thinking it gives more validity to what he argues in terms of how there's a kind of revisionist outlook on hip hop and how we've come to understand it.
It's almost like the system of democracy. Your people feel like they have the power, but the industry really has the power. Like they're the ones still capitalizing off of this music and paying people the right amount of money to take us away from the positive stuff that's being said. So you get more money if you talk about, a sexy red. You get more money if you talk about young Dolph talking about killing and shooting and this, that, and the third. So put money into the people that's destroying the community. And yeah, it's pretty much working. It's been working for a time. We getting money and feeling like, oh, we got freedom because we equate freedom with money, but that's not the same. So yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I'm thinking of rock and roll, right? And how rock and roll was a vehicle or a catalyst in some ways to spur integration, right? I mean, not legally, but they were playing the music. Black and white audience both wanted to consume these musics, and then all of that. But it eventually got co-opted, as rap
Yeah.
has been co-opted. I'm not sure if I agree that hip hop or rap music was like this grand scheme from hatched out from way back to
No.
get the minds of the youth, because I just remember how hostile in my youth that institutions, radio, our parents, we were very hostile to rap music. The politicians, very hostile towards it. So I'm like, I think it eventually revealed itself to be like a useful utility. Probably the likes of like Leor Cohen and Russell Simmons helped to facilitate that and bring that about. But I don't know if it was like this grand scheme from when to capture the minds and hearts of Gen X. But I will say what I'm observing is that as people get older, they do tend to care more about legacy, right? Like they want to leave something behind. And
also, yeah.
What kind of legacy? What kind of legacy KRS-One standing next to Eric Adams? What kind of legacy Chuck D standing next to the two of the giantest Zionists, of our day? Like what is the legacy that we're trying to cement here? So anyway.
Yeah, no, I don't think that, I hope it wasn't interpreted like that was Jared's argument, because I don't think that his argument is that it's been like some grand scheme, but ultimately that it's always been this. And then we look at the sort of like, when we look at the Josh Batash, and is it Polish? He wrote the thing on Tupac and government involvement in the hip hop industry, and then the State Department and Leo Cohen, like that connection.
Yeah.
And in the way that it's written, I don't think that it's something that's just happened coincidentally, right? I think that they've always kind of been there in some, even with the hostilities, because those hostilities were coming like from individual Congress people against individual artists. But as a whole, when we look at the 90s and how many people got caught up. And then also like, yes, we could say that there's rappers who rap about certain things, like guns and drugs and sex and all that. But then the rappers who don't, but then still end up, selling us Sprite. Like, shout out to Chris Lightly, rest in peace. But like, that whole development of that. So I don't see that being any different, right? Because so I think to that, maybe perhaps that is the validity I'm seeing, where he's talking about, because it comes out of like this capitalist model anyway, like the way it was sold and packaged, that it was inevitable.
Yeah, because hip hop came out of the ghetto youth. They needed a voice, especially with disco being the prominent music at that time. So even to the first big song that came out with Sugar Hill Gang being partly disco, and then them rhyming over a disco beat, it was like trying to integrate into the whole music thing. So they was like, okay, even though y'all spitting that street stuff, we gonna put you on this disco beat and sell. So right from there, it was like, let's sell, let's make money off of this. So it was being exploited from the beginning, from the record industry, but from the youth, when you came out with the message, like songs like that and stuff, it was talking about what's going on here in the ghetto. People was like, oh, okay, cool. But then it was like, that's cool, but let's talk about the flash. Let's talk about the style. Let's talk about the culture. Let's talk about what we don't have and what we want. So then a lot of rappers started, like Curtis Blow started, being the I rule the world and the king and this, that, and the third. And it went from there. So I would just say, yeah, money changed hip hop. So if we're talking about corporations and stuff, definitely changed hip hop. And it's, I believe, as he says, it's always been a part of it. So, all right, I guess it's time to go ahead and take a break, and we will come back with some more right here on the Remix Morning. Why is she so quick to leave? I didn't finish.
You didn't hear my child knocking on the door. I gotta go feed him on his break.
Well, let me do it like this. We'll be right back to the Remix Morning Show. Yeah. Let's go right here on the Remix Morning Show. Like, subscribe, go to Patreon, become a member over there and get footage that's rare. And with that said, let's do a remix on the remix. Y'all ready? Let's do it like this.
Come on, baby. Come on, baby. You drive me crazy. thing. The finest thing I've ever seen. Looking like a natural queen. I said, let me take you for a ride. Oh, babe. To the other side, we can do just what you like. Can we start as long as you're ready? As long as you're ready, baby. Any way you want it. She thought I'd be her client. Experience to be taking for a stroll.
All right, that's a little mix up right there. We got no other than my man Barrington Levy coming out in 1990 off his album Love the Life You Live. And this song right here is called I'm Too Experienced to Be Taken for a Ride. And that's mixed with a little bit of New Edition off their album Home Again in 1996. And that song is called Hit Me Off. So, hit you off to experience. That's what it is. Remix on the remix. Now let's get back to the Remix Morning Crew. Now we do.
I think she wants a clown, someone to take for a ride.
Yeah. What?
Let
Man.
that Barrington ride. Let that
I'm
Barrington
too
lead.
experienced. Ain't that the part right there? Too rock and roll. What? Man, that's how you be up in the dance. Like, What? Come on, man. Y'all. Man.
Also, that was a bomb era for New Edition, by the way. That's their comeback era.
Oh, yeah.
That was a great song.
Yes, it was. So there you go. A little bit of Barrington, a little bit of New Edition, man. I want to go to a dance hall. That's what I ain't been to in a minute. I would love to go to a dance hall, but I'm supposed to be doing some go-go Friday. I ain't never been to go-go, so I'm ready to go-go. Huh? Where? In D.C.?
Where?
That's up to Kim and Jared Ball.
Go be right there.
That's up to Kim and Jared Ball. They know the spots.
Nigga, I am old. I know the spots. What are you talking about? I don't even be out.
She don't go outside. She just
Nigga,
do like, you know how when you check the weather, you open the
Oh.
door and do like this? That's all Kim do. She
Yeah,
just...
doctor. Every time I go out in DC, I'm disappointed. Like it's so sad. It's a sad state of affairs. Like the gentrification is out of fucking control. Where was I? This is a couple weekends ago. Happened to stumble down at the National Mall, and it was something going on there with all kinds of security. And this is separate by the gentrification, by the way. This motherfucking U.S. Capitol Police let his whole dog come on over and sniff all up in my area. I'm like,
damn.
Can you come get this dog? Now I like the dog. Now the funny thing is, I had a J in my hand, right? So I had weed in my hand. So I'm like, oh well, clearly this is not a drug sniffing dog. I said, wait a minute, maybe I shouldn't be walking to the mall with this J in my hand, because that is the only places you cannot legally smoke weed in DC is on federal property. But the police, these super troopers out here, they ain't on the shit at all. So,
Man, I ain't never gonna forget when I first went to New York and it was legal to smoke. I couldn't wait to spark a blunt up in front of the cop, boy.
It's out of control in New York.
It's really crazy.
It's out of control.
I loved it.
Because, niggas was doing it before. You just.
I love that they like.
Yeah,
I love that they like it.
Especially if you're in the city, you can smoke openly. You just gotta. There's side blocks you can walk down. You just gotta know where to walk. But now, it's like LA out there.
I know I did. I couldn't wait, yo. Man, when I went to go see Lettucey up there, it was great.
Nice.
All right, so let me get up out of here. Y'all got guests coming, so make sure y'all tidy up, make it look nice. All right, peace.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Is our guest here?
Thank you, Ear Doctor. Brilliant. So, Ear Doctor, do we have a segment, a little transition ready to introduce the guest? Brilliant. All right, remixers, you guys stay tuned. It's Black Liberation Media, Women's Wednesdays. And stay with us on the other side to introduce this morning's guest.
Peace, peace,
Morning.
peace.
Hey, good
So
morning.
welcome. I'm not good at intros. I'm not gonna pretend I'm Kim, but no. So we're here this morning to have this conversation with my comrade Rodri Dunlap. If anyone's seen Friday on Earn Your Liberation, he was also there to talk about his case. Currently, Roderick is in California dealing with something that he's going to elaborate more on. But I did want to have an opportunity because today I believe is the last day for the trial, and I did want to get an opportunity, another round for folks to sign the petition, send out the calls, phone zap, etc. So welcome, Broderick. If you can introduce
Hey,
yourself.
hey, thank you. Yeah, my name is Broderick. I'm a member of Black Alliance for Peace. Before I joined BEP, I'm from California, from the Inland Empire. I was part of the Black Power Collective. We were formerly the Black Lives Matter Inland Empire chapter, and eventually changed our name and disassociated with Black Lives Matter. But in 2020, when there was so much energy to mobilize and protests, we decided that, it would be the most productive to, redirect the community's energy towards local cases of white supremacist violence and police brutality. One case in particular was with Lawrence Bender. Lawrence Bender was shot by Rialto police officer Michael Babineau while he was unarmed and his hands were up. And he was not a threat, but Michael Babineau was incredibly hostile towards him, like right off the bat at the beginning of their interaction, telling him to get to the ground before he shoots him in the face. When in reality, Bender was asking for a lighter to light a cigarette. But Babineau eventually shot Bender and arrested him and kidnapped him. And for a while, his family didn't know where he was until they reached out to us, and we encouraged their family to file a missing persons report. And the same day the missing persons report was filed, Lawrence popped up in West Valley Detention Center in Rancho Cucamonga, another city in the Inland Empire. And yeah, from 2019 up until the end of 2020, there was a struggle to basically get Lawrence Bender free, get him the proper medical care that he needed, and try and see justice carried out to the best that we could. And so we had a campaign. It was a series of rallies and protests outside of San Bernardino courthouse for several weeks during 2020, and on July 30th. Which ended up actually being like our smallest protest. And like 11 people at that protest got arrested, 6 of which were Black Power Collective members, including myself and my co-defendant, Yaslin Saucedo. We're being charged with trespassing on the court grounds, resisting arrest, and impeding a public servant from carrying out their duties. And in this case, the public servants were police officers. We've been on trial since June 10th, but this has been a struggle that's spanned over the last 4 years. When we were arrested, we were held for a day, and we were not informed of our charges until a year later. There's been evidence that's been destroyed, or like the officer that arrested me and assaulted me with his baton somehow lost his body cam and belt recording footage. And so, it's been, honestly, quite frankly, it's been a circus in the court. There's been one officer that lied about being in the courthouse lobby when the arrest initiated. He claims he was on the 11th floor, heard police chanting. Heard a protest on the bottom floor. Mind you, this building has bulletproof and bomb-resistant glass, and he wears a hearing aid. But he somehow heard our chanting from the 11th floor, and he claims that he had nothing to do with the protest. But our lawyer was able to find footage, and he's clear as day in the lobby and was running towards the protest when people are being arrested. And there's a lot of things that I think he's implied, and like he's hidden cameras. Moved cameras 5 minutes before the protest started, and before the police really aggressive with us. So there's just been a lot of weird things that's been happening over 4 years with missing evidence and witnesses. And our court date was supposed to end, our trial was supposed to end today, but it's being extended most likely until Friday, when closing arguments will actually be had. And this is because like I said, there's just been a lot of just strange occurrences happening over the last 3 weeks. There's been uncooperative witnesses. Most of the witnesses are police officers, and they're just making things incredibly difficult. But yeah, I mean, that's the gist of it. And
yeah. So thank you for that detail about what's happening currently, because we know even with the struggles around any of the things that we're doing, this is the possibility that we're going to come up against police, going to have to confront police possibility. We see that in Atlanta right now, currently with the 61 facing RICO charges. So I'm wondering, given the evidence presented by the defense, including the tampering of the evidence, the reappearance of critical video footage, and just the contradictions around the police testimony, why do you feel, or why do you believe the implications of this trial serves a more broader has a more broader implication again for the movement against police misconduct and just for the rights of community organizers in general?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things that are really important to note. The Inland Empire is incredibly reactionary and conservative, and the district attorney Jason Anderson, he is the same. This is the same district attorney's office that targeted Latino activists out here in San Bernardino as well, and try to slap them with RICO charges. And several of them are facing serious jail time for organizing to advocate for food vendors. And since 2020, I would honestly say a couple of years before that, but in particular 2020, both Riverside County and San Bernardino County DAs have really turned up pressure against activists and anyone who shows any kind of dissent towards or dissatisfaction with the police. Even in the most liberal terms, they've been hit pretty hard with charges or harassment. And I think in the bigger the bigger picture, especially with in the LA County with the student protests on various campuses throughout Southern California and the anti-Zionist protests. The police have been incredibly aggressive, and the courts have, instead of, when protesters are arrested, they're usually detained, cited, and released, but they're becoming increasingly more punitive and being hit with even stronger charges. We were hit with misdemeanors, and there was one comrade that was, charged and convicted of vandalism, and they tried to give him a year in jail for writing on the sidewalk with chalk. So I think this is part of a larger trend of increasingly punitive charges against protesters. And I see it as just, a slide towards fascism in the United States. Yeah.
When you say, Broderick, it's punitive and targeting towards protesters, it's specific towards those with your political leanings and ideologies, because the right wing have been massing and protesting quite a bit in your area and in Southern California as well. Anti-LGBTQ protests, outright pro-white supremacist protests, and the cops don't seem to address them in the same way that you all have gotten addressed. Have you noticed?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Throughout the years, there's been several explicitly white supremacist and Nazi protests that we've also had counter protests at. And police are often protecting right-wing extremists and their protests, and being violent towards counter protesters, whether they're engaging with the right wingers or not. So yeah, I think they're definitely more inclined to protect right wing protests and counter protests whenever we decide to mobilize. Absolutely.
And then your First Amendment protected speech is not protected. You guys are free to assemble at a courthouse, inside the courthouse. It's a public space. You have every right to be there. I'm curious about the jury, though. I'm assuming this is a jury trial that you guys are.
Yes.
Can you kind of describe, I guess, the demographics of the Inland Empire and how that's reflected in your jury, and I guess the confidence or lack thereof that you might have in this particular jury? I'm not even sure if you can speak to that specifically, but just your thoughts.
I'm honestly not too sure I could speak to too much about the jury. I will say that there are no Africans in the jury, and when we made a note of that during jury selection, we were basically shot down by our judge.
Hold on.
So I personally feel that we're not.
There's zero black people on your jury.
Yes, no, not a single black person. And yeah, when we brought that up, when we brought it up, our judge shot us down and said that there's actually she says, I think that there are actually two mixed race people there. So like
She think that there might be,
Yeah.
possibly could be. Wow.
Yeah, there's no. I mean, if there are, they're not black. And then yeah, so there's just a lot of things like she is spoon feeding the DA objections. Our luckily our DA is not a very good lawyer, but like whenever she objects, she'll say like objection on speculation. She's like, I won't sustain your objection on grounds of speculation, but that is a compounding question, so your objection is sustained. So she'll do things like that, and then our lawyer will like object, and she'll overrule and move on. So like there's clear bias between the DA and the judge, which is also interesting because our lawyer was able to expose San Bernardino sheriff for intimidating and trying to persuade a judge to basically push our case through without the necessary witnesses. And the entire San Bernardino County had to recuse itself, and we've been moved to LA County. So they really shouldn't have much of a relationship, but that just shows, the common interest that DAs and judges have when it comes to repressing, Black dissent.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think to that point is important why we pack the courts. I know that's one of the calls that has been made, that people show up because we need to be a witness to these things. I know when my first time being involved in those kind of pack the court actions was during the Keith Davis Jr. case. And I was the first time I was there to hear that the person who's the ballistics, right, who's in charge of looking at the bullets is legally blind. The evidence was missing. Yeah. And these are things that are coming out in the pretrial, right? So if you're not in the courtroom, you have no idea that these things are passing through. And so it's really, really important. So I do want to ask, like, how does the prosecution's mishandling of even the evidence or just the inconsistencies that they've been doing in terms of witnesses and all of that, how does that reflect on the integrity of like the legal system, quote unquote? Because there's been a lot of questions around the integrity of the legal system pertaining to what's happening with Trump and what's happening to Hunter Biden, right? But like what we know when we look at like I think currently 33 out of 50 states have laws against protesting. Like they have these sort of anti-protest laws. So how do you feel like, in particularly involving cases with political activism and civil disability, like what does it say about the integrity of the system?
I mean, I had little to no faith in the integrity of the justice system before I was involved in the legal system, and now I have absolutely none. And I think it is clearly rigged towards the DA being able to get their convictions. I think another example is the police were able to talk about a previous protest that had happened where people were writing in chalk on the sidewalk and they were banging on courthouse windows. Mind you, I didn't even go to that protest. Was just newly engaged and was probably hanging out with my then fiance, now wife. And so I didn't go to that protest. And they were able to use that protest to explain why they had several like militarized forces at our protest where several of us were arrested. But we are prohibited from speaking about why we were protesting, which is why a black man was unjustly shot while unarmed. And not only that, when he went to court, a federal court sided with him, and he was awarded a $1.3 million settlement from San Bernardino County. So, like, if we're able to provide context for why we're there, if the police are able to provide context for why they're there, why aren't we? And it just is, and they've been speaking about this protest that happened a couple weeks before we were arrested to basically confuse the jury. And like, we spent the first week and a half speaking about that protest, a protest I wasn't even there. And so it's just clearly rigged towards the DA, towards the state. And I can only imagine if someone is being falsely accused of a crime that is, you know, facing several years in prison without the support of the community. It's just been incredibly, like, it's incredibly difficult, if not impossible, to get a fair trial.
Are they trying to get you to agree to a plea agreement? Or have the prosecutors tried to float? I'm sorry. My apologies if I'm asking you questions that are too sensitive as it pertains to your case still being active, but have prosecutors offered you a plea?
Yeah, this is another reason why we think me and my co-defendant are being targeted. We were never offered plea deals over the last 4 years. Several other activists or people that were arrested, not necessarily, they were probably just attending the protest. They were not members of Black Power Collective. They were all offered plea deals, and their cases are over. But active members and leaders within the Black Power Collective were not offered any deals and were basically forced to go on trial. And I think that our constitutional rights were violated. Our freedom of speech, our right to protest were violated. The whole basis of their argument for arresting us was we violated a court order, but the court order does not say that we are subject to arrest if we do not follow that court order. And then they also did not follow their own procedure in that court order. The court order says that if someone is, for example, protesting at the courthouse, then the police must reach out to the court manager, whatever that is, to basically get approval for the next steps. Nowhere in the court order does it say that they have permission to arrest us, and they violated their own court order, which has been exposed in court. But we are being, we're being targeted and punished for literally, like, the protest hadn't been there. We hadn't been protesting for more than half an hour before people got arrested. I had been there for like 10 to 15 minutes before being arrested, without interacting with the police. The police are accusing me of swiping at his baton, and they're using the evidence they're using is the back of, like, they have GoPro footage from the police that is, the angle is from behind the police officer that I allegedly swiped at, and like, you can't see me swiping at all. But that has been used, and that has been deemed legitimate evidence of me basically trying to interfere with police business. We do have footage of that says otherwise, but it just hasn't come out yet. But yeah, it's been absolutely ridiculous.
So as we wrap up, we have right here is a petition. So this is one of the ways that folks could support, and we're going to put that in the chat as well. But what support specifically are you and your co-defendant looking for? And also, if you wanted to speak briefly about your co-defendant, because I think it's really important that there is some public awareness about cases like this where activists face politically motivated charges, especially when we are encouraging people to join organizations, right? We can't stress enough that this is the potential outcome. We don't support the release of political prisoners or understand that the necessity for the support of release of political prisoners just because, right? We understand the dynamics of the work that we do. So what are the ways that we can support? And
I
then
think that
also maybe speak to ensuring how can we ensure maybe a just outcome for not just your case or cases similar in the future?
yeah. Um, so I think the most productive way to help is packing the courtroom. When we have a significant amount of people in the courthouse on our behalf, the judge is less inclined to be spoon feeding the DA objections and just being clearly biased towards her. And as far as my co-defendant Yoselin, she was an activist for quite some time. And then after her arrest, she kind of like took a step back. She at the time she has 2 young children, and she was worried about getting in more legal trouble that would take her away from her kids. She just graduated grad school, and she had been someone that was active in the community for quite some time. And yeah, that's all I really have to say about Yoselin. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Broderick. I don't know, Kim, if you had wanted to say anything else.
Just a last question. So, Broderick, today is the last day of the trial, and it's expected to go to the jury. I guess today or sometime tomorrow. Do you or your attorneys have an idea when to expect a verdict?
Most likely, because like I said, there's been a lot of weird things going on, and our lawyer just hasn't allowed things to slide. Our trial's been extended. Today was supposed to be our last day, but we're most likely going to end on Friday and hopefully get a verdict on that day. But yeah, Wednesday, today and tomorrow, me and Yoselin will likely be taking the stand.
Oh wow, that's incredible. And what are you guys facing in terms of punishment? Like what is the term for the sentence if you were to be convicted?
That's honestly difficult to tell. Neither one of us have a record, so like in reality, we should get community service and be able to move on. But as I said, they tried to give one of our comrades a year in jail for writing on the sidewalk with chalk. So it depends on how hard the DA decides to come at us. So I honestly, I don't know.
And if there was a miscarriage of justice, which has already happened because you're facing trial for protected activities and actions, but if a further miscarriage happens and you are found guilty, are you and your team prepared to move forward with an appeal?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
sounds like you got a lot of grounds.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much, Broderick, for taking time out of your morning. I know it's like 6 over there on the West Coast. It is not. So, but no, I think it's really important that we amplify not just your case, but other cases like it, primarily for the reasons I spoke about. Like when you do this work, we just have to have realistic understanding about what it means to engage in this work, and then also not just the realism of what it means, but actually supporting the people when it happens to them. Do not leave your people behind. So like if you can, pack the courtroom. If you're out there on the West Coast, we do have, if you check out Black Alliance for Peace, there's a phone banking number. We encourage folks to call the DA and encourage them to drop the case. And then also there's the petition. Please sign a petition. The numbers keep extending because people keep exceeding the amount. So now I think it's about 1,000 signatures when it previously it started at 100. So that's where we are. We keep exceeding, and as we exceed, it goes up and up. So continue to sign. And then also our comrade Jordan wrote a really great contextual article about the case. So if you want to know more about the case, that was linked in the chat, but I can ask the doctor to link it again. So thank you so much, Roderick. And we'll be following along, and I'll hit you up.
All right, thank you.
Good luck, Broderick.
All right.
Yeah. Great interview. All right.
It's a chilling. That was a very chilling interview. It's like I'm chilled, literally to the bone, just thinking about. I mean, I'm sorry. So I'm thinking about a couple things. I'm thinking about what this young man just presented to us, and as it pertains to his case, and then I'm juxtaposing that with the shit that's going on in Massachusetts with the white on white violence at the trial of Karen Reed, where the white cops is trying to, frame this white woman, and it's like, well, if they do that to her, of course, why wouldn't they do this? And of course, it's not new, but again, just the levels of blatant corruption, but blatant chicanery, blatant tomfoolery. Y'all playing funny with the body cam video, and all of us know now y'all done lost the fucking body cam video. It's so much playing in the face, but the consequences are real. And deadly serious.
Yeah, and the thing I think, even to the point of highlighting Keith, like how people become politicized prisoners, right? Because Keith was not involved in any kind of political activity at the time, right? But that didn't stop the blatant misjustice in that courtroom from occurring, which is why we always I get it about the jury duty thing, Africans, I understand, but it's really important that we get into those rooms, because we could say demographically, sure, it would make sense that there's no African people on there, but then it's also, we kind of don't sign, when you don't register to vote, that's the way that you get into there. So I don't think the registration for voting is necessary for the voting, but we do need to have eyes on these systems, because the first time I've ever done court support was for that. And to hear the pre-trial, just the things that they would decide to allow in the trial and the things that were said at a pre-trial was just mind-boggling. And I always consistently went back because it's to say it can happen to any of us, because that's the way of the legal system. And to the point of prosecutors are cops. And we say that because their whole job is to indict you, is to get you locked up. That's how they excel. Right? That's how they ascend in their job. That's how they get their merits. People don't become, well-known prosecutors from never winning. And they can only win by, cutting corners, cheating, and being in powwow with the judge and the whole system. So we really, the whole concept of progressive prosecutors is not a thing. It's not, because at the end of the day, their job calls for locking you up.
Yeah. Speaking of African people, we got a couple more stories to get to. We got about 25 minutes left. So make sure y'all hit that like button, subscribe, and I'll let y'all get to it.
Peace. I believe we're heading to Africa.
Yeah, we're heading to Kenya.
I'm trying to untighten my face. I'm sorry.
I know, it's so distressing.
My face is so tight. I'm just tight. I'm tight. Well, let's get untight and see the people on the continent, specifically in East Africa. That's right. Let us go to Kenya, everybody. Nairobi, where I was going to say they had their own January 6th, but I think this is way more righteous than the whites' January 6th. Kenyan protesters stormed the Kenyan parliament. And unfortunately, the protests have resulted in, I think, at least 5 people have been reported dead. The Kenyan police have been cracking down very harshly on protesters, tear gas, all kinds of deadly things. So I want us to, ear doctor, if we could please, can we watch?
I'm inside. Niko ndani. Leo tunamalizana na nyinyi. Tunamalizana na nyinyi. Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm here to address you. You must go. Ruto must go.
Yeah, let's talk for it. Protesters first broke out.
Yeah, the Parliament building.
Government treat us like foreigners in this place. We are rejecting every single bill in that finance. We are rejecting it, every clause. We are not asking for any amendment. We are asking for them to reject it. The MPs have failed us. We are going to take power with our own hands, and we are not afraid.
Tear gas billowing all through the streets there in Nairobi. So obviously I'm getting a lot of this through Western media. And what the Western media is reporting is that the Kenyans are upset because there was a new law passed that will increase taxes on everything. And the thing they're leading with the mainstream news is flour, like they're increasing taxes on everything. And this is why the Kenyans are upset. I imagine there's probably more to it. But Ricky, our resident African from Ghana to Kenya, Ricky can talk about what's going on across the span of the continent. What's going on in Kenya? Can you put this in perspective for us, please?
Yeah, well, yeah, it is protesting for the anti-tax laws, but I will say that that's probably the catalyst for the protest, but it's not the catalyst for the anger. Over the last year or so, there's been continuous protests against Ruto and the police force, primarily because they brutalized Kenyans. So there has been active calls for Ruto to step down for quite some time, especially pertaining to Haiti. It is unconstitutional that Kenya would be sending troops or police officers to Haiti. That's something that Kenyans raised. It took it all the way to the Supreme Court. So this article right here is in the Black Agenda report from the Kenya Communist Party. Before I read that, though, one thing I do want to highlight, because when we see these kind of actions, right, there's an idea that these are like spontaneous things, especially how it's being depicted, that it's like driven by the youth, right? That the youth just one day woke up and was like, oh my God, we're fed up, and start burning shit down. And I do want people to have a little more, because people don't engage in African politics or what's happening on the continent generally, but even more specifically country to country, that this is not as spontaneous as it seems. There are organizations that are tapped in, that we as Black Alliance for Peace or as the All African People's Revolutionary Party are tapped in with. So there has been consistency. Like, this is not something that just erupted out of nowhere. So there is a base of which these people come from. So in this, the Communist Party of Kenya, who has been in the forefront of speaking out against Ruto's potential occupation, which, as we saw yesterday, they have landed. The other half, because Kenyans have been there. But they wrote an article right at the start. They wrote a statement right at the start of the protest, just as it was about to rev up. So the Communist Party of Kenya vehemently condemns President Ruto's recent actions, which I can't see that, expose his true allegiance as a subservient agent of Western imperialism. His visit to Washington and address at the G7, summit confirmed beyond doubt that he is held captive by the foreign forces that facilitated his ascent to power. This is no longer speculation, but a glaring fact. President Ruto is a puppet of the Western ruling class, betraying the Kenyan people at every turn. Domestically, Ruto's policies are skewed towards U.S. imperialism, perpetuating economic and social inequalities. His overt camaraderie with the genocidal Zionist Israel regime further implicates him in international atrocities. Ruto's support for the NATO proxy war with Russia and Ukraine underscores his role as a mouthpiece for CIA scripted propaganda. This betrayal extends to the economic front, where the dictates of IMF and World Bank economists drive our fiscal policies, pushing unpopular fiscal laws that benefit foreign interests over Kenyan sovereignty. I can stop there. But that is the gist of what's happening. that the tax hike is not just simply a tax hike. It is tied to the IMF and World Bank, and they are taxing everything from flour to menstrual pads. Everything has gone up. Everything. So when you see people in the streets, that is the culmination of their frustration with this man that they have watched fly to Washington back and forth over the last 8 months since the UN Security Council gave the go ahead. There's also something else I wanted to note too, because I said that yesterday that the troops landed, or the officers landed from Kenya into Haiti. So that Friday, on the 20, was the Friday the 21st, that afternoon, the Security Council held a private meeting on Haiti requested by Ecuador and the U.S., which are the pen holders on the file, and they wanted an update on the deployment of the multinational security support mission authorized for Kenya to lead through the resolution, because the resolution 2699, which was passed, I think, September of last year, it authorized that mission. It gave Kenya the go ahead to send troops to Haiti for quote unquote gang activity and restore security in Haiti. But that deployment has been delayed continuously. It was initially set for February, but it was postponed because Kenyan organizations went to the Kenyan Supreme Court to challenge the idea that they can make this unconstitutional move. And then they were aimed to do it in May, and that was delayed because of equipment shortfalls. And then also the U.S. has made promises to Kenya in the terms of, I think, $300 million, and then also a dinner with Biden, a personal dinner with Biden. But there's like some equipment shortfalls in Port-au-Prince because they already have, before they had like a smaller contingent of officers, but in order to bring the larger, they needed more equipment. So they were hoping that within the next 2 weeks, and they just fast tracked that into 4 days later. Kenya's there, and Kenya's there to protect Haiti, or to restore civility and security in Haiti as Kenya's parliament is being burned to the ground. So
y'all should stay home.
I think you got stuff to do. That reminds me of Macron earlier. Like, you got stuff going on. Like, what are you doing?
right.
Your
Like,
house, your own actual house is on fire.
actually,
and here you go, across the world to go try to put out the fire in somebody else's house. The priorities. I do not understand.
and correct me if I'm wrong, Ricky. I saw that due to the protests, they've managed to stop them from taxing, I think, some of the most egregious things like cooking oil, menstrual pads, and I think one other thing but I'm not sure about that.
I would have to see the updates. That I have not seen. Last I've seen was that complete list. And again, this is all tied to the World Bank and the IMF. So when people talk about imperialism, they leave out the economic part of imperialism, and they focus solely on the military might and strength. But the way that the U.S. has been moving, it has been less military strength and more soft power and this sort of sanctions, like ruling by sanctions, and the World Bank. So we see that sort of capitulation happening on the continent, and then the focus for folks is, but China, right? That's when you always have to bring it back. Let's bring it back, because certainly we can have our criticisms, but to what extent, right? We're not seeing China behave in these ways, right? So when we talk about the primary contradiction of imperialism, we really have to look at the actual imperialism occurring, and not, there's a thing where they're like, there's Chinese imperialism and Russian imperialism and Islamic imperialism and Iranian imperialism. It's not that. But what we are seeing happen in Kenya is a product of neocolonialism, which Nkrumah has told us is the highest stage of imperialism.
So what's likely to happen here? Obviously, we still have to keep watching, but you said that the Kenyan president is deeply unpopular, and unpopular cats have not been faring all that well on the continent in the past year. Like, the people have been making moves to get him up out of there. But it sounds as though Ruto has a lot more, at least American protection, than maybe some of these other folks had. Does that make him more or less likely to remain in power?
I don't even know if he's there right now. Is he in Kenya? Has there been reports that he's actually in Kenya?
I did find something from the BBC where he did address. I maybe can find it kind of quickly, but
Oh, yes, he did make a speech, and he
yeah.
was like, he said, "I'm putting you all on notice." So,
Yes.
the
From
funders of
yeah.
this.
So
Go
is
ahead.
he in Kenya though? Because is he saying this from afar? Like, is he saying? Because I am wondering. Because I did. I don't know if there's any truth to it, but I did read or see that there was they even got one of the parliament members, like they went to their house, like they took it right to the home. And that was one of the persons that was like advocating to push this tax law. So they went right to the home.
Mm.
So, people are not being exempt, but I'm wondering, is he there? Because typically when these kind of things happen, like you see in Haiti, they got that man out of there. They got Henri out of there. He couldn't even land, right?
You just come chill in Puerto Rico for a couple days.
Right.
You be all right. You be all right.
Yeah. I don't know.
I'm not seeing it right away.
Would that be interesting? But yeah, I'm sure that he is attending. I mean, the reason why there's been protests for so long, especially primarily against the police, is because he's been using the Kenyan police as a strong arm, as a paramilitary force against the people who have valid grievances with him. So, I mean, I'm pretty sure that the intent is to shut down all of this. But right now, as it stands, the news, or at least the mainstream media, MSNBC, has not been hostile to these protests. And I do think it has something to do with the fact that they tear gassed Obama's sister on live TV.
I saw that.
So they're not as because she was in favor of the protesting.
Right.
So I think they're trying to figure out a way to angle this, because they also have not talked about Haiti in any real way.
And they wouldn't, you know what I mean? Like, unfortunately, but the mainstream, especially cable news, they're not here to make those specific connections, right? Like, and I mean, the insular way in which American media is reported anyway, like if you are a foreign person coming here, you would be shocked at the lack of international discourse on the news. Like, it's crazy. I remember when they did used to cover international politics on ABC News Tonight or whatever the fuck. That is a rap-ola. They talking about the Olympics. That's the international news. Did you know
and what they're eating? Yeah. They have big segments.
Air Doctor, check your text. I sent you a YouTube clip. If you're able to drop that and play it for us, that would be amazeballs. I didn't email it to you because you complain about the speed of my email as though I don't have no so I don't know how to work.
Now I gotta email myself. All right, hold on.
Air Doctor, don't you have all your? Don't you DJ off a MacBook? Aren't you looking at a MacBook right now? You ain't got all your Apple shit togethers.
We got 10 minutes left.
I'm gonna knock you
out. All right. So to that point though, I do want to pull up I have the Black Misleadership thing.
Sure. Yes.
Because it's still talking about Kenya and Haiti, but the Haiti Americas team wrote this statement about the misleaders, primarily about Al Sharpton and what's his name, Ron Daniels, and they are currently buying for occupation of Haiti. And I do want to bring this up because this is something that was released. You can also find it on Black Agenda Report, I believe. But I do want to bring this up because they are actually advocating for what we're seeing for Kenya being there, right? And then we're also seeing what's happening in Kenya, and mum's the word. We have not heard anything from Ron Daniels or Al Sharpton. These are the forces. So, we always, that type of terminology, the Black Misleadership class that comes out of Glenn Ford, in Black Agenda Report, and it's a scientific term, as Glenn Ford described it, not so much a scientific term, but like a weaponized political terminology, because it speaks to this particular class of people. And so I'm just going to read partial of the statement if you want to scroll down. The Haiti Americas team of Black Alliance of Peace rebukes the U.S. Black Misleadership class support of the latest U.S. invasion and occupation of Haiti. We condemn the participation of this class in discussions with the U.S. security state and its promotion of imperialist foreign policy objectives aimed at undermining Haitian sovereignty and dignity. So on March 29, 2024, U.S. Deputy National Security Advisor John Feiner led a meeting on Haiti policy with a selected group of leaders, quote unquote, of U.S.-based Black civil rights groups. And this included Al Sharpton and Ron Daniels. And if you are familiar with Ron Daniels, he does the reparations movement, sort of. He leads that, like the international reparations movement. But I do want to just note that this class of people, their involvement in these particular kind of discussions, obviously, like we note here, is promoting imperialist objectives to undermine Haitian sovereignty, but it is also to be expected. We saw last summer, Hakeem Jeffries and Kamala Harris, they spoke with the leaders of CARICOM, which in turn resulted in Kenya taking this position, because Kenya was there, Rwanda was there, Mozambique was there in those conversations. And they went to CARICOM trying to convince CARICOM nations to lead it. And Kenya took the bait. And then soon after, Jamaica and Bahamas said they would support Kenya. So that is how that even developed from that CARICOM meeting, because before then, the U.S. had tapped into Mexico, no deal. The U.S. has also tapped into Canada, no deal. So they kind of circled around until they got to CARICOM, and they got a little pull there, and Kenya took what happened. So this subsequently leads to the Kenyan occupation. But then more recently, Ron Daniels, I want to say, is this playing a more insidious role because he's using this Haiti crisis to fundraise. So he's it's so much hyperbole around the gang crisis, right? But he's using it to fundraise for his own initiatives. He's never ever talked about the conditions of Haiti because he works with the core group. Essentially, he works with these sort of figures because he ignores the role of the U.S., France, and Canada. He ignores all of that. So I just think it's really important to highlight that we're seeing the role of not just the Black misleaders in Kenya, right, the comprador class of Arudo, but then more domestically, we have our own leadership, quote unquote, that's pushing for the occupation of the first sovereign African nation, right? The first free Black nation by other Black people. So they're pushing for this kind of Pan-African imperialism. And this is all handled under this sort of Black misleadership, comprador, neocolonial class of people, both global and domestically.
I gotta hear the reason. Like, I want to know what is Al Sharpton's and Ron like. Well, I need to hear them explain how can y'all justify more American or even proxy American involvement in Haiti? Like, it's been a disaster for over 100 years for a U.S. meddling in this nation, in its political, futures. And it's like, how can anybody? I know how. Don't answer.
I was like, well,
I mean, I know the answers, but I'm just like, nah, nigga, I gotta hear this bullshit. Let me hear what you gonna say here about how Kenya with the UN peacekeepers and fucking America can get in there and restore order. Since when? Where's the evidence?
U.S. has to restore order. Like, like, oh my God.
Where? Show me where order has been restored anywhere when the U.S. is involved. No fucking where. Only time order gets restored is when the U.S. leaves, right? Like, once they roll out, look at Vietnam shining out here. You know what I'm saying?
And I was on the Critical Hour on Radio Sputnik on Friday, and we discussed this article. And one of the things that the host mentioned that I thought was really key, that I'm surprised that I didn't even make that connection, was the Global Fragilities Act and the role of it. So the Global Fragilities Act is a Trump bipartisan act that it came out under Trump, and everybody said, yes, great idea. And Haiti is kind of like the laboratory or the testing ground for this. And essentially it's supposed to be looking at the more fragile, quote unquote, states that they're supposed to restore security. And they're doing this by like the use of NGOs or nonprofits and soft power, like the National Endowment for Democracy or USAID and those kind of things. So we're seeing that play out in Haiti already, but they also want to take it to the western coast of Africa. So the role of Al Sharpton and Ron Daniels then becomes to facilitate the Global Fragilities Act on a grander scale, or to fast track it, essentially, because what they're doing is lock and step with that policy. essentially calling for stability. Oh, Haiti is so out of control. Oh my God, we got to free and save Haiti, right? But they're never speaking to why is Haiti like what is the conditions in Haiti, and then this idea of the savers, the U.S. chauvinism of it all, right? That is up to us to save Haiti without any Haitian involvement, because of all the people that talked to John Feiner, it was no Haitians. They didn't bring anyone in. And then even when we look at what CARICOM, the meetings that CARICOM is having, there are particular Haitians that they're having these conversations with, right? They're not including the larger base of Haitian civil society in these conversations. They are speaking to a particular class of Haitians that benefit from the paramilitary forces to begin with. So here we are.
And just the one thing
Pan-Africanism
I'll add,
and imperialism.
yes, Pan-Africanism all the way. And I'll just add, I was thinking about this the other day, really what keeps these countries, I mean, I think one of the carrots that the US offers is that aid piece of like, hi, we'll invest, but really they just want to give them loans that keep them on the hook for years. I mean, Ukraine, they want to loan them billions of dollars after they destroy all of Ukraine. We'll help you rebuild it by this loan that you can never pay back. Thank you so much. Yeah. We don't need the US help for anything.
Never, ever.
No.
US out of everywhere.
Out of everywhere immediately. Let's see, where are we at here time wise? Ear doctor, we have enough time for a mix, ear doctor.
Mm-hmm.
Do we?
We do.
We do.
So before we do, let's make sure we know what's coming up. What's going on in the world with your lives? What you got coming up on your show, Kim Bridown?
Tonight is Kim's Twitch Turn Up, BIDWKB on Twitch. I have a blasty blast playing the jams that I love. I would tell y'all what my alias is over there on Kim's Twitch Turn Up, but I won't because this is a family show. But tonight's the last night of Black Music Month. So if you guys remember, in my previous setup, I have many dozens of records hanging on my wall, vinyls hanging on my wall. So we're gonna do the wall tonight. I'm gonna pull records off the wall, and we're gonna play some of my favorite joints off of some of them records. And it's bangers as always.
I might stop by.
You should.
Yeah.
Set your Twitch notifications, everybody. Follow me, BIDWKB. It's Kim's Twitch Turn Up tonight.
Twitch. Okay. Get there. What about you, LJ? Got anything coming up?
This weekend, no, just chilling. And I'm also watching the debate tomorrow night.
Oh
So
yeah,
that's
that's
what I'll be
coming
doing.
up.
That shit gonna be no fun. It's
No
like
fun at all.
no studio audience. The person not speaking is gonna have their mics muted. I said, how can Dawn get these zingers off on Joe Biden under these conditions? Like I don't agree with this, but okay.
Okay, I wonder what the cocktail they're gonna give him, and can I get some? You know?
Right. That ketamine Adderall mix. Let's get it.
He's probably gonna melt under all that light. He's like a cyborg. Biden.
Which
I don't
one?
even believe he's real, right? he's gonna start melting, like malfunction. What about you, Erica? What you got going on?
Well, BAP has a lot of things going on. We just talked about Kenya and Haiti, and tomorrow at the Kenya consulate in New York, at 866 UN Plaza, there is going to be an action at 12 p.m. Reject the finance bill and hands off Haiti. So it's going to be a dual action for Kenya and Haiti. And then that's on, on Friday. And then also on Friday, locally, BAP Baltimore will be involved in this event called We Will Be What We Want to Be, from Baltimore to Palestine. So it's about cultural workers and the actual role of cultural workers in this movement space. So Rafiki will be speaking there. If you all are not familiar with Rafiki, he wears many hats. One of them is a cultural worker. He is an incredible painter. He also is a poet. So if you are around in the area, we will be at area 405 on 405 East Oliver Street in Baltimore, Maryland. So come out and check us and get some of our propaganda.
All right, that's what it is. And last but not least, make sure y'all come on out this Saturday if you're in the D.C. area and come check us out. Remix Morning Show is going to be live 1 to 4 p.m. 1301 Connecticut Avenue, Northwest Suite 600, Washington, D.C. All right,
Free.
boom.
It's free. It's
It
free.
is free. It's free. Free parking and all that. So come on out.
Your
But
doctor.
don't ruin it. Don't ruin it.
But don't oversell it either.
I mean, ain't parking, you know.
That's negative, sir. In DC, there is no such thing as free parking unless it is
Validated parking?
I mean, maybe, but the parking situation is touchy, everybody. So again, plan accordingly. Try to arrive early. Metro use is encouraged.
Yeah.
You know,
Lyft,
DuPont Circle.
Uber, whatever. you gotta do.
Yeah. DuPont Circle is busy. It's busy on the weekend. We're gonna be running into the brunch crowds. You know what I'm saying? It's gonna be.
All right. Well, that's what it is. Thank you all for tuning in once again. And make sure y'all come back here tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. as we do it once again right here on the Remix Morning Show.
Come
Let's get out
together
of here.
Thursdays.
Let's do some Retha.
Reefers. Yes.
All
Get it.
right. We out of here, y'all. Peace.
You want my loving. If you really do, don't be afraid, baby. Just ask me. You know I'm gonna give it to you.
All right. We out of here, y'all. Thank y'all for tuning in. Remix Morning Show.
When my friends told me you had someone new, I didn't believe a single word.